In 10 years' time, the Federation Kingdom of the East will fall. The kingdom is destined for destruction at the hands of the 5 great sins. A man declares that to prevent this, he has become their patron, though he admits he was not prepared for how big the task would become. This man was once a wage slave, working grueling 78-hour weeks in his old life. Suddenly, he possessed the body of a noble in a fantasy world. Initially, this seemed like a stroke of incredible luck. However, he soon discovers a major downside. He is completely illiterate in this new world and possesses no special powers whatsoever. Despite the challenges, he embraces the perks of nobility. A grand feast is laid out before him, showcasing the luxurious life he now leads. Later, a maid attends to him, preparing his bath. He muses that being the useless and pampered young master of a count's family is the perfect life for him. But a crucial piece of information is missing. He still has no idea where he is. A maid informs him that the other young masters will be returning tomorrow, so he should rest early. The man asks who she means, and she replies, confused, that she is talking about young masters Leo and Tonio. She questions why he acts as if he does not know his own family, the Palacio house. The name Palacio strikes a chord, sounding ominously familiar. As he tries to place it, he absent-mindedly sinks into his bathwater, causing the maids to panic. A realization dawns on him. He is inside the world of Psychedelia, a turn-based RPG he used to play relentlessly. In the game, regardless of the player's choices, the appearance of the 5 great sins, wrath, greed, sloth, pride, and obsession, spells doom for everyone. The kingdom, its nobility, and its cities all spiral into ruin. Among the first to fall is the Palacio house, a noble family notorious for its troublemakers. The eldest son, Leo Palacio, is known as the king of prostitutes, while the second son, Tonio Palacio, is the king of drugs. Dealing with them is an early subquest before the main story begins. The man collapses in shock. He now remembers the subquest to investigate the Palacio house and recalls how the estate had a sinister vibe even in the game. This cannot be real. The Palacio family is the very first casualty when the 5 great sins begin their rampage. And he has been reincarnated as the family's third and final son, Alan Palacio. Lying in bed that night, Alan desperately wishes to return to his life as a 78-hour, week-wage slave. Even if he lives in luxury now, he is fated to die in 10 years, a fate he considers worse than 6 months of unpaid wages. He laments being possessed into a fantasy character with no special powers, unlike the protagonists in other stories. But then, a new thought emerges. Knowing what will happen in 10 years is a power in itself, making him something of a prophet. He decides he can simply remove the catalysts of the world's destruction. His new mission is clear. He will reform the 5 great sins to secure his peaceful, noble life. He reasons it should be possible, since they are all still children. The only problem is his complete lack of powers. 2 months later, his knight, Evan, reports that they have rescued orphans from the East's human testing center. He has placed a girl named Yusha in charge of managing the new orphanage. Alan compliments Evan on his skill and precise eyes. Evan is unsure how to take the praise, noting that Alan's facial expression makes it difficult to read his intentions. Alan forces a smile and assures him it is a compliment, expressing his hope to continue working together. Evan reflects that Alan used to be much more expressive with his emotions. Alan, for his part, feels that his possession of this body stopped at the face, as he finds it difficult to show emotion naturally. Alan explains that Evan is a rare and valuable character in Psychedelia, known for his unwavering loyalty even in the face of constant betrayal, which is why Alan hired him immediately. Evan brings up Alan's previous statement that this entire operation was to save the girl, Yusha. After seeing her, he understands why. Evan, an experienced mercenary, could tell that Yusha was no ordinary child. She was so powerful that he could not understand why she had allowed herself to be locked up. He questions Alan's decision to leave her at the orphanage instead of bringing her back with them, seeing no benefit in it. Alan agrees it might look like neglect, but explains that leaving her there is part of his plan. Yusha Bludia is a non-human who, in the original story, signs a contract with an otherworldly entity. This contract grants her immense power and transforms her into Wrath, one of the 5 great sins, responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands. Alan believes that if she grows up in a peaceful environment, she will never become Wrath. With this, he believes he has successfully neutralized the first landmine. He fabricates an excuse for Evan, telling him that it is not yet time to bring Yusha back. He instructs Evan to provide the orphanage with ample funds, ensure no one speaks of their activities, and deliver a personal letter to Yusha. Evan asks if the letter is important, and Alan replies that he just wants to check on her and offer some reassurance after her ordeal. As Alan prepares the letter, he privately admits that he is not sure if it will actually reassure her, but it is worth trying. The true purpose of the letter is to include a specific quote he remembers from the game. An archbishop in Psychedelia used to recite a spell meant to calm and befriend non-humans. In the game, the quote fails, and the battle with Wrath begins, but Alan hopes that at this early stage it might work. He knows it is a long shot to befriend a monster with a simple phrase, but given that these beings worship a god from another world, their fanatical mindset might just make them receptive. At the orphanage, Yusha reads the letter. Evan, standing nearby, is stunned by the unbelievable amount of mana radiating from her. He observes that she is a strange child, seemingly devoid of any emotion. Yusha asks Evan if Mr. Allen was the one who sent the letter, and if so, why he does not want her by his side. Flustered, Evan struggles for an excuse but suddenly has a flash of inspiration. The raw power manifesting from Yusha is something only a master-level being should possess. He recalls Alan's words and tells Yusha that Alan said it is not yet time. The answer satisfies her, and her overwhelming aura calms instantly. She rereads the quote from the letter, recognizing it as a secret promise only her master would know. Suddenly, she understands his intentions completely. Evan watches, confused, as Yusha declares she finally gets what Alan means. The sin of wrath has now pledged her loyalty to him. Meanwhile, back at the Palatial estate, Alan lies comfortably in bed. He feels he has successfully extended his luxurious lifespan a little longer. Looking out the window, he imagines even the bright moon is cheering him on, and he resolves to work just as hard on reforming the next future disaster. Alan is in the library, searching for information, when a stack of books topples over, hitting him on the head. He grumbles in frustration, finding clues about the third boss is giving him a headache. His knight, Evan, enters the room to report that they have successfully rescued the second child Alan had mentioned. Alan is pleased and asks if Evan's men treated the child with exceptional kindness. Evan assures him they did, explaining that after saving the child from the illegal slave market, before Evan can finish, the library doors are kicked open with explosive force. Alan's older brother, Tonio, storms in. Tonio immediately confronts Alan, mocking the illiterate boy for even holding a book. He smirks, saying he heard Alan has been studying recently, and he demands to know the truth. Alan thinks to himself that his brother is an insufferable pest. He wonders how the original Alan ever tolerated this. He wants to strike back but knows he is too weak. Instead, Alan calmly states that he will take his leave so Tonio can have the library to himself. As Alan bows, Tonio viciously slams his foot down, pinning Alan to the floor. Tonio sneers that Alan certainly knows his place. In a flash, a knife flies past Tonio's head, embedding itself deep into the wall behind him. Tonio spins around, enraged, to see their eldest brother, Leo, standing in the doorway. Leo coldly tells Tonio to get lost. He does not want to see blood first thing in the morning. The two brothers immediately start arguing, their dark auras clashing. Alan uses the opportunity to crawl away from the confrontation. He reflects that the Palatial County fell quickly in the game, but he now understands their internal power struggle is far greater than he realized. His two scummy brothers are locked in a vicious fight for control of the family. Leo is the prostitution king, a behemoth of the underworld, while Tonio is the drug king, a manager of a vast drug cartel. Alan knows he cannot interfere with these two if he values his comfortable new life. As he escapes, Evan quietly shields him from the debris of his brother's intensifying fight. Alan solidifies his resolve. He will survive by acting like a weak and incompetent bastard child. Back in his room, Evan remarks that the second rescued child did not seem ordinary either. Alan collapses onto the couch, completely drained. Evan silently wonders how his master, who seems to be having trouble just keeping himself together, could possibly have learned about the illegal slave market and secret bioexperiments happening in another region. He finds his master's actions, particularly sending these children to an orphanage, to be increasingly strange. Alan knows the child is far more than not ordinary. He is a force of cataclysmic destruction. He recalls the lore of Psychedelia. The child they rescued from the slave market is Deus Michaelian, the game's second boss. After being sold into slavery and suffering horrific abuse, Deus eventually becomes the embodiment of sloth, one of the 5 deadly sins. He proceeds to annihilate the kingdoms of the land in the most brutal ways imaginable, a storyline famous among players for its shocking cruelty. However, Alan also remembers a key detail. Contrary to his title as the Sin of Sloth, Deus was an incredibly diligent individual who always repaid both his debts and any disservices done to him many times over. This is exactly why Alan ordered Evan to treat Deus with kindness. He tells Evan that he sent Deus to the orphanage because it is not yet time for him to be brought to the estate. Evan accepts this answer. He asks if the letter Alan sent to Yusha was about Deus. Alan confirms it was, adding that he included some small talk and instructed her to take care of the slightly sick child. At the orphanage, Deus stands alone, his expression completely vacant from the trauma he endured. Yusha approaches him and observes that he is broken. She recognizes the traces of the black goat's magic on him but tells him that the great moon has chosen him nonetheless. She congratulates him and channels power into him, urging him to feel the gift he has been bestowed and unleash his potential. She promises that if he stays loyal to their master and follows his orders, he will have his revenge. Having delivered her master's will, Yusha decides it is time to send her first reply with a light greeting. Back at the Palatial estate, Alan is still buried in books, desperately searching for any information on the third boss. Evan bursts into the room again, this time with a grave expression. He reports that there is big trouble. The second young master, Tonio, is dead. Alan is stunned. Evan explains that Tonio suffered an accidental fall. At Tonio's funeral, the family's corruption is on full display. Their father is completely unconcerned, accompanied by bored women. Alan watches in disgust as Leo smirks, clearly pleased with the outcome. Leo even brought drugs and his own women to his brother's funeral. Alan knew the family was messed up, but this dark fantasy is beyond what he imagined. He knows this outcome is different from the game's original story. In that timeline, Leo killed Tonio after years of conflict, then cried crocodile tears as he claimed his place as the family heir. But now, Leo looks like he simply got a lucky break. Alan concludes that Leo or his followers are responsible. He decides to ignore his family's drama. His only focus is resolving the issue of the 5 deadly sins. A year passes. With the succession battle over, Leo absorbs Tonio's drug business, and the Palatial County becomes even more powerful and outwardly peaceful. Over this time, Alan and Yusha become regular pen pals. Her letters detail the children's progress at the orphanage, and Alan is glad to hear they are growing up well. He also notices that the sponsor list for the orphanage, which Yusha includes in her letters, is growing steadily. Evan comments that while this is unusual, it is a good thing. Evan then delivers more good news. The Information Guild has finally found a clue related to Alan's long search. Alan is ecstatic. He is sure it must be an ancient text detailing the location of the third boss. At last, he feels he can finally track the next target down. On a peaceful evening, he feels that everything is finally going his way. The scene shifts to Margot, a major drug distribution site controlled by Leo's organization. 2 of his men are boasting about their leader's generosity and the organization's growing power, which now numbers in the hundreds. Their conversation is cut short by screams of terror. A gruesome massacre unfolds before them. They watch in horror as their comrades' bodies move on their own, raising their own swords to their throats and taking their own lives while screaming for help. From a dark alley, Yusha and Deus observe the chaos. Yusha comments that she enjoyed the day's puppet show. Deus, the one controlling the men, asks her if there was a point to this slaughter. Yusha asks if he feels pity for them. Deus replies no, they grind people up to create their drugs. He just fails to see how this massacre relates to his personal revenge. Yusha explains that this is a necessary step, a way to create a space for their master to return. They cannot allow the place to be shabby when he finally arrives. Deus understands. They vanish into the sky, and Yusha declares that everything will proceed according to his will. She proclaims that they, the blue moon, shall be his sword. On the ground below, a glowing symbol is burned into the stone, a powerful message left behind at the scene of their massacre. 2 years have passed since Alan and Yusha began their correspondence. Evan searches for Alan and finds him in the backyard, practicing his magic. Evan reports that the 5th and final future sin has been successfully sent to the orphanage. Alan is overjoyed at the news. Over the past 2 years, he has managed to save all of the remaining future deadly sins. In celebration, he playfully tosses cakes to Evan, making his knight do tricks for the treats. Alan declares that Evan's duties related to the orphanage are complete, and he can finally rest. A wave of relief washes over Evan. He then asks Alan if he is happy. Alan insists he is, pointing to the faint curve of his lips, which is barely a smile. Evan, unconvinced but resigned, simply agrees. Later, Alan stretches out on the grass, reflecting on how well his plans have unfolded. The 5 bosses of psychedelia became the deadly sins due to their traumatic pasts. He worried that his interventions might come too late after their spirits had already been broken, but it seems he succeeded in saving them before they could undergo those tragic events. He asks Evan for an update on the orphanage, and Evan hands him the latest letter. The once broken, doll-like children have begun to heal and show signs of life again. Alan muses that they probably will not need to hire another caretaker. He is impressed with Yusha's skill, theorizing that her own difficult background makes her sentimental towards the orphanage. Evan asks if there is anything important in the letter. Yusha reports that everyone is doing well, with some growing faster than others. She assures Alan that he does not need to worry about Deus or any of the other children. Seeing them thrive, Alan concludes that a safe and nurturing environment is truly the most crucial factor for their well-being. Evan then asks Alan when he plans to meet the children, reminding him that he always says, "The time will come." Alan finally admits that he never plans to meet them. He explains that while it would be nice to be close, he remembers their in-game personalities. Even though he rescued them before their brutal transformations into sins, he is still afraid of who they could become. He compromises, suggesting he might visit in 5 years. For now, Alan is focused on acquiring the skills to protect himself in this dangerous dark fantasy world. He continues his magic training, grateful that his new body has a natural talent for it. Evan then mentions the Blue Moon, an organization that has recently gained fame for hunting down criminal organizations. Alan thinks they sound like a force for good and, having never heard of them, assumes they are a minor group that will not last long. Evan adds a chilling detail: the Blue Moon is rumored to kill nobles. Frightened by this news, Alan immediately orders Evan to sleep in the room next to his from now on. That same night, at the orphanage, Yusha presides over a meeting of the Blue Moon. One girl, the Sin of Pride named Sealrang, proudly reports that she took the heads of all the slave traders in the north. Another girl, the Sin of Greed named Rinna, adds that she melted the corpses. A boy, the Sin of Obsession named Raiden, announces he has finished his work in the south, taking care of the illegal human testing grounds and turning the members of Avalon into minced meat. Yusha declares that all things will proceed according to their master's will and that they exist for the Great Moon. But Deus reports a problem. He reveals that the head of Avalon is the eldest son of the Count family where their master resides. During his purge in the south, he discovered a written order, an assassination plot targeting Alan. Enraged, Yusha's aura flares, terrifying the other children. She reads the order, which details a plan to slowly poison Alan to death after his father, the Count, dies. She vows that this will not happen. 2 years later, Count Palacio dies. The official cause is heart failure, but the truth is a drug overdose. In the aftermath, Leo's men report to him that the Blue Moon struck their operations again the previous night. The Count's death, unmourned by anyone, is met with silence as Leo grows more wary of this mysterious organization. Following his father's death, Alan and Evan see Leo glaring at them with murderous intent. Evan asks Alan what he plans to do now that Leo will surely become the new head of the family. Alan, already packing his bags, announces they are going to run. Not permanently, he clarifies, but they are leaving for Rodmill, a small town to the south of the Palacio territory. As they depart, a frustrated Leo watches them go. For 3 days, Alan and Evan enjoy a simple, peaceful life, but their respite is short-lived. They are forced to return for Leo's funeral. Back at the estate, Alan is bewildered. Leo is dead, stabbed through the heart, far earlier than in the game's timeline. He wonders who could have killed him. When he approaches Leo's men to ask about the cause of death, they cower in fear, apologizing for even looking at him. Every servant in the mansion now avoids him, their eyes filled with terror. Evan returns from his own investigation, his expression serious. He looks at Alan and asks a single shocking question. Is he the one who made Avalon vanish overnight? Alan stares back, completely baffled by the question and the chaos unfolding around him. The narrative flashes back to 3 days prior, on the day Alan and Evan departed for Rodmill. Evan suggests they go to a city instead, but Alan emphatically refuses. Rodmill, he declares, is his final destination. His grand mission, saving the 5 great sins and, by extension, the world, is complete. Rodmill has no connection to the original story of the game, and better yet, his family has a villa there. It is the perfect place for a noble like him to live a life of leisure, doing absolutely nothing. Evan sees through his facade, remarking that Alan always says everything has a reason when he simply cannot be bothered to explain himself. Alan just smiles, saying that good things are great. As their carriage pulls away, a frustrated Leo watches them, debating whether or to kill Alan. He ultimately decides it does not matter, as he had planned to poison Alan after their father's death anyway. Since Alan is heading to the quiet borderlands, there is no immediate reason to kill him. He suspects Alan's sudden departure might be due to his recent troubles with Avalon. Something about Alan simply bothers him. Leo orders one of his most trusted men, Alman, to follow the carriage. Alman, in turn, asks if he wants him to kill Alan. Leo is taken aback. Alman has never once questioned his orders. He demands to know why his subordinate is suddenly asking questions. Before Leo can finish scolding him, Alman's blade pierces his chest. As Leo bleeds out, he asks why he has been betrayed. Alman calmly replies that he enjoyed playing war, but the game is now over. He reveals his true name, Haydn, and his true allegiance. He is a member of the Blue Moon. Haydn explains that they follow a creed taught to them by the Red Moon. The Blue Moon is their master's sword, and they act according to his wishes. He tells the dying Leo that he had to wait 2 years for him to finally give the order to harm their master, a transgression that, according to their creed, allows them to act on their own accord. As Leo warns that his subordinates will not let him go, Haydn coolly states that with Leo's death, Avalon will disappear from the continent forever. He adds that it was unfortunate for Leo, the Great Moon had given him a chance. Meanwhile, at the villa in Rodmill, Alan is living in paradise. He wakes when he wants, eats what he wants, and enjoys the idyllic life of a true noble. His peaceful new existence is shattered when Evan brings him a letter. The letter requests his immediate return to the Palatial estate following Leo's death. Alan's free trial of heaven is over after only 3 days. Back at the estate, Alan is the subject of fear and suspicion. Evan, half joking, asks if he has become some sort of shadow leader. Alan, hiding in a corner, is bewildered by the sudden turn of events, asking why everyone is treating him like a villain. Evan explains the logic. Alan is the only one who benefits from this situation. He left the estate, giving him a perfect alibi, just before Leo was murdered, clearing his path to become the next count. With Avalon gone and Leo dead, all of his problems have vanished. Evan concludes that everyone believes Alan is the shadow leader of the county who orchestrated the assassination of a swordmaster. Alan is overwhelmed. No known organization is capable of taking down a key figure of the underworld so swiftly. He considers the Blue Moon, but Evan reminds him that, according to the Information Guild, the Blue Moon was not involved. Their signature is leaving a mark, not corpses, and the members of Avalon were all found stabbed with swords. Alan now understands why everyone is terrified of him, but he is still missing the culprit. He dismisses the Blue Moon as a group of weaklings who disappear before the main story even begins in the game. He wonders who could be behind all this. The scene shifts to Yusha and the other children. She asks if they found any traces. Rinna and Sealrang both report finding nothing but corpses. Deus confirms he is back and only found the remains of Avalon soldiers. Finally, Raiden returns, announcing that he cut the remaining 486 Avalon soldiers in half, just as Yusha commanded. With a cold smile, Yusha declares the job perfect. In just 5 days, Avalon, a massive organization that once dominated the Asteria Kingdom, has been reduced to dust. However, Raiden reports that the cleanup was not perfect. He presents a document he found among the belongings of Avalon-connected nobles. It details a deep connection between Avalon and the Altia dukedom. Yusha's eyes narrow as she reads the document. She declares that they all know what needs to be done. The others prepare for their next mission, and Raiden volunteers, stating that he will take care of this quietly. Rinna then confirms one final detail. Is the Information Guild side of their operations clean? A member assures her it is, as that is being handled as a separate matter. Deus adds that a rumor is spreading through all the guilds. They are calling the recent events the work of the Hell Sword made by the Swordmaster. Rinna asks Yusha if she should continue surveillance, and Yusha agrees. Yusha then gives a strict and absolute command. Under no circumstances can this matter reach the ears of their master. She reminds them all that she has told them this many times. Deus speaks up, pointing out that their master's own family targeted him first. Yusha cuts him off sharply. This was not an order, she clarifies. They are swords, and a sword must not think for itself. The blue moon is only to move on their master's direct command. She reminds them all that their master knows everything, and they must never, ever disappoint him. This exchange leaves Deus deeply confused. He cannot understand why someone with Yusha's overwhelming power feels such intense anxiety, terrified of being found out by their master. Despite his confusion, he understands her command. Everything is for the great moon. Meanwhile, Alan's life has become a living nightmare. A full month has passed since the funeral, and he has been drowning in an endless tide of duties. All he wants is to loaf around and eat, which is what he thought nobles were supposed to do. In the original story, Leo's death was 6 years in the future. The sudden change in the timeline has thrown everything into chaos, and the entire backlog of the family's responsibilities has crashed down upon him, the new heir. There's a knock at his door, bringing yet another mountain of paperwork. Alan groans in frustration, wondering why everyone is suddenly working so hard when they used to slack off under his father. He does not realize that the staff, terrified by the rumors that he is a secret mastermind, are working frantically to avoid his perceived wrath. Every gesture he makes is misinterpreted as a sign of anger, pushing them to work even harder out of fear for their lives. At night, Evan commends Alan for his astonishing progress. In only 2 years of self-study, Alan has reached the 2nd tier in poisoncraft, an achievement that typically takes 4 years of instruction. Alan acknowledges his decent talent but reveals he has hit a wall. He has practiced tirelessly for self-defense, but the truth is his innate mana haul is incredibly small. In Magic, mana capacity is like an athlete's natural weight class. No amount of training can overcome a fundamental deficiency. Feeling that all his efforts are in vain, he despairs. Seeing his master's plight, Evan tells him that if all else fails, there is another method. The invitation to the aristocratic ball has arrived. Alan is already exhausted by the time they arrive at the ball. As the soon-to-be Count, he knows he needs to network for his future, but the other nobles actively flee from him. Alan mistakenly believes they are shunning him for his family's low-class reputation as Eastern troublemakers. He decides to unveil a social skill he secretly practiced and approaches a young noblewoman. Complimenting her wine, he requests a few bottles for his home, flashing what he thinks is a charming smile. The woman, seeing the feared murderer of the Palacio brothers in front of her, pales and immediately agrees, rushing off to tell her father. Oblivious, Alan congratulates himself, attributing her haste to shyness. By the end of the night, his intimidating reputation has earned him a large pile of gifts. Defeated and socially isolated, Alan escapes to a balcony for fresh air, wondering where everything went wrong. A voice calls out to him, and he turns to see a young woman. She introduces herself as Loria, the 3rd daughter of Duke Altia. The name instantly puts Alan on alert. The Altia family are the northern troublemakers, one of the major shadow players from the game. He is certain she is no ordinary person, yet he has no memory of her appearing in Psychedelia. Loria wastes no time and gets straight to the point. She asks Alan to lend her his strength, because she is going to be assassinated very soon. Alan considers Loria's desperate plea. He processes her story. She was protected as the daughter of her father's mistress, but now that Duke Altia's condition has worsened, her older sisters are planning to kill her. It is a classic, mutual downfall succession crisis. Alan realizes that this explains why he does not remember her from the game. She must have already been dead before the main story even started. Loria insists that with the power Lord Alan possesses, he could surely save her. Alan, however, tells her that he must decline. Unwilling to give up, Loria tells him she is not asking for help empty-handed. She promises to give him half of the Altia family's fortune if he saves her, but Alan is firm, telling her that he will be taking his leave. He sympathizes with her plight but can barely take care of himself right now. It is better not to give her any false hope. Even if he wanted to help, he is not the powerful figure that the rumors claim him to be. As he walks away, he glances back one last time at the desolate-looking girl. He sighs with a hint of regret, telling her that he wishes her luck and hopes she finds a reliable ally. As he departs the ball, members of the Blue Moon watch from a hidden location. Raiden notes that an Altia has approached their great moon, and another suggests passing the information on to Yusha. Rinne, however, says it is fine. According to their intelligence, Loria is the only member of the Altia family not tied to Avalon, which means she is the only one who is not one of Raiden's targets. Deus concludes that this simplifies things. The rest of the Altia family will be dealt with. Rinne states that they will proceed according to the Red Moon's command and focus on blocking all information so the Avalon case does not reach Alan. Still at the ball, Alan wonders if he has some kind of barrier warding people away from him. Just then, the woman who was staring at him earlier greets him. Hopeful that he might finally get to socialize with a noble, he turns, only to recognize her face from the game. He immediately knows this means trouble. No one would approach him first unless they were a problem. He greets her, and she introduces herself as Lady Zenonia. She is surprised he knows of her family, and he replies that she is famous in many ways. In the kingdom, there are 3 great shadow players: the Altia of the north, the Palatio of the east, and the Zenonia, the troublemakers of the west. She asks if her family is really that famous, and he confirms she is Kalia, the eldest daughter of Count Zenonia. Alan thinks to himself that if his family runs a gang, the Zenonias operate a much more sophisticated criminal syndicate. He knows he needs useful connections to maintain a peaceful life, and for that very reason he must never get involved with her. He offers her a compliment, calling her beautiful. She thanks him and says she would like to talk more. He replies that he would love to, but there are too many eyes on them at the moment, internally pleading to be allowed to leave quietly. Kalia says that he is just as the rumors describe him and that she looks forward to seeing him again. She walks away, leaving Alan to wonder what exactly she meant. In the shadows, Rinne reports that the information about the Avalon case is being well contained. However, Deus brings up a new concern. Someone is still keeping watch on Alan. It seems he is being tailed. With no new orders, their instructions are to continue observing and then eliminate the pursuer. The next day, Alan and Evan journey to a remote canyon. Evan asks if this is the right place. Though it is midday, the inside of the canyon is strangely dark. Alan declares that he has finally found it. This is his real objective. Evan groans, saying he might cry if this turns out to be another empty lead, but Alan insists this time it is real. The labyrinth was easy to find in the game. He admits that the real reason he came south under the pretext of attending a ball was to find the Labyrinth of Whispers. Solving the riddles in its 8 rooms rewards the victor with a powerful artifact. Alan has memorized all the routes and puzzles. It is time to put his grinding skills to use. Seeing the entrance in real life feels different, even after running the dungeon countless times in the game. Evan remarks that the canyon's interior feels artificial, as if someone deliberately built it. He asks Alan how he knew of this place, and Alan jokes that he has come here often. When Evan questions this, Alan quickly says he has his ways and urges them to go in. Evan tells him to stop joking with such a serious expression. Inside, they witness giant stone traps crushing monsters. Evan understands that if he gets a riddle wrong, those things will slam down on them mercilessly. While monsters are continuously being murdered, Alan calmly solves the puzzles. Evan marvels at his master's composure. After working together for 4 years, he still does not understand him. Alan's missions, from eliminating crime groups to delivering random messages, have no pattern. He barely leaves the estate, yet he seems to know everything about this world. Alan announces that he got the next riddle right, but the door will only open after the mechanism finishes its cycle. The reason Evan follows this mysterious master is simple: everything Alan does somehow leads to a good outcome. Evan wonders what the goal is this time. The final door opens, and Alan feels like he is going to puke from the grotesque carnage he just witnessed. He had to strain his neck to avoid looking at the gruesome scenes. Once they are inside the treasure room, Alan declares that they will take only a single black ring and leave. Evan thinks it looks the most useless of all the treasures, but Alan insists that taking anything else would only bring trouble. He has finally obtained the Oath of Restraint. He assures Evan that there will be no dangers on the way back, as it was an easy clear thanks to his game knowledge. Just as they are about to leave, Evan shouts a warning. He points out that Alan must have seen this coming too. The rock piles inside the canyon are actually golems. A new, unknown enemy appears before them. Facing the worst-case scenario, Evan's priority is to get his master out safely. Alan, however, steps forward, saying that this time, he will handle it. Evan wants to trust him, but he believes finding an escape route should be their first priority. As the golems charge, Evan yells that second-tier magic will not be enough. Alan ignores him and invokes the power of the Oath of Restraint. Time seems to freeze around them as he raises the ring. A cosmic voice addresses him, "O Fragment, inheriting the great will of Nyakala, speak 2 restrictions I can enact." Alan is surprised. In the game, this was just a choice window, but now a real voice is speaking to him from a great face forming in the void. He understands the Oath of Restraint is an artifact that lets him impose restrictions on himself in exchange for power. The voice's reality makes this world feel even more real. For his first oath, The voice prompts him to speak. Alan declares he will always perform the hand signs of Babylonia when using magic. When asked what he desires, he requests the power to twist the laws of the world a little further. The voice grants it. For his second oath, Alan declares he will strictly chant the words of Babylonia when using magic. When asked what he desires this time, he requests greater power to defy the world's laws. There is a pause, and Alan worries he messed up, despite mimicking the exact skill icons from the game. By choosing both restrictions, he knows he can achieve the highest possible magic attack power. Thanks to his repeated gameplay, he has memorized all the necessary combinations. This has to work. Finally, the voice says, "Granted." It addresses him as the human who remembers the gestures and mysteries of a forgotten god, expressing gratitude to him for inheriting its will. Alan wonders what this means as the ring is absorbed into his flesh, confirming the restriction was successful. The voice then promises it will forever be watching him. Time unfreezes. Evan is still yelling that second-tier magic is not strong enough. Behind him, Alan summons a sphere of lightning. The spell looks pitiful, a stark reflection of his small mana haul. This is his absolute limit under normal conditions. But now, it is time to test the power of the restrictions and the price he paid for it.